Arthur No Fee Fitness here. Today we are going to make strength and size stop arguing and finally work together. You will leave with a simple rule you can feel on every set. How much your bar speed slows from the first repetition to the last decides whether you get stronger, bigger, or just plain tired. No fancy gadgets required. We will speak human, not lab. I will give you the 3 practical zones of bar speed loss, how to spot them with your eyes, how to plug them into a real week of training, and how to cycle them so progress keeps moving without you living in soreness or burnout. When I say loss of bar speed, here is what I mean in plain language. Your very first repetition in a set is the fastest one on that day. As fatigue builds, the bar slows down. The loss is simply how much slower the end of the set is compared to that first clean rep. If there is almost no slowdown, you stopped fresh. If the last rep crawls and your face makes that cartoon strain, you went to the deep end. Somewhere in the middle, the bar is clearly slower but not a grinder. That middle is the money zone for combining strength and hypertrophy. Early in a set, your nervous system is fresh, coordination is crisp, and you can produce force fast. That is where neural adaptation happens. Your brain gets better at recruiting muscle and firing it on time so the bar moves decisively. As you keep repping, fatigue rises and the bar slows, but recruitment across fibers is now very high and the local tension inside the working fibers stays high enough to tell the muscle to grow. That is why growth can happen even when the bar speed is not impressive. Near true failure, you mostly buy more fatigue, more recovery time, and not much extra growth. The beginning of the set teaches you to hit hard. The middle of the set grows the engine and carries strength deeper. The very end of the set is the tax office. Think of 3 zones. There is the low fatigue zone where the slowdown is tiny, roughly in the range that feels like you could have 3 or even more good repetitions left if you had to. There is the moderate fatigue sweet spot where you would honestly say you have about 2 to maybe 1 clean repetition left. And there is the high fatigue zone where the bar turns into a grind and you are squeezing out the last possible repetition. Most lifters should live mainly in that middle zone, visit the fresh zone often, and only drop by the grinder zone on purpose during specific phases or tests. Let's clear a few common confusions so you do not get tripped up. Strength and mechanical tension are not identical. Toward the end of a set, you look weaker on the bar because you are tired, but inside the fibers that are still working, the tension and recruitment are high, which is exactly why muscle can grow. It is also not true that only slow twitch fibers work at the end. As sets get hard, you recruit the whole neighborhood, including high threshold units. They just fatigue quickly, so their relative contribution drops. And those cinematic last 2 repetitions, for most people they add little extra size and a lot of extra recovery cost. The payoff is usually not worth the wear unless you are chasing a very specific adaptation or you are peaking for a short window. You do not need a device to judge these zones. Use your eyes, your rhythm, and a little honesty. In the low fatigue zone, every repetition looks like the first one. Smooth start, steady bar path, no surprise stalls, breath stays calm. In the sweet spot, you notice a clear but controlled slowdown on the last rep or 2. Your bar path is still clean, and if someone asked you for 1 more good rep, you could give it without turning it ugly. In the grinder zone, the bar hesitates. You feel a sticky point, technique wants to drift, and your face and breathing tell the truth, even if your ego does not. If you like using the rate of perceived exertion, that sweet spot often lines up around what many people would call 2 or 1 repetitions in reserve, but treat that as a feel cue, not a law carved in stone. Now let's put this into a week that a real person with a job and a life can run. Imagine 4 training days. On the first day, you focus on a main lower body lift like a squat or a trap bar deadlift. Warm up, then perform several working sets that you intentionally keep in the low fatigue zone. Move every rep with intent. Stop the set while bar speed is still snappy. Finish with 1 or 2 accessory moves taken into the sweet spot, like a leg press or a split squat done with that clear slowdown but not a grind. On the second day, you push an upper body press. Start with low fatigue sets on your bench or overhead variations. Again, crisp speed, then chase the sweet spot on your accessory work, such as dumbbell presses and rows. On the third day, you return to lower body and live mostly in the sweet spot on your main lift. The goal is to keep form tight while accepting that the last repetition or 2 in each set will slow down. You rack it before a grinder shows up. Add posterior chain accessories in the same zone. On the 4th day, you do the same for upper body. Keep the main lift in the sweet spot. Finish with pulling volume and triceps or shoulders as needed. Across these 4 days, you have trained both ends of the spectrum. You taught your body to be explosive when fresh, and you taught it to keep producing force as fatigue creeps in. Over time, that combination raises your 1 repetition maximum without leaving you stuck under a cloud of constant fatigue. Periodization is just grown-up planning around the fact that your readiness floats. Some weeks, your sleep and stress pull bar speed down whether you like it or not. Rather than fighting reality, you rotate emphasis. Run several weeks where your main lifts are mostly in the low fatigue zone, while accessories sit in the sweet spot. Then flip it for several weeks where your main lifts live in the sweet spot and your accessories stay easier. After 3 or 4 hard weeks, pull back for 1 easier week. In that lighter week, you keep technique sharp, reduce total sets, and stop sets a little earlier. The point of the lighter week is not to become a couch potato. The point is to let your nervous system and connective tissue get ahead of the work so the next block starts fresh. Different lifts wear you down differently, so read the room. Squats and deadlifts tax the system hard. Living in the grinder zone on those is a fast road to feeling beat up. Keep most sets of those movements in the low fatigue zone or the sweet spot. Rows, leg presses, and machines are cheaper in recovery. You can live in the sweet spot more often there. Isolation work like curls, lateral raises, and triceps pushdowns is the safest place to flirt with high fatigue occasionally because the recovery cost and technique risk are much lower. The pattern is simple. The more global the lift, the more you earn your progress by staying away from grinders most of the time. Here is how you can progress without spreadsheet stress. Pick a conservative load that lets you hit clean sets in your target zone. Next week, add a small amount of weight or add a single clean repetition per set while staying in the same zone. If the bar speed tells you that you slid into the grinder zone, either stop a rep earlier or bring the weight down a notch next time. Over several weeks, you will see 2 things happen if you stay honest. The same weight stays faster for more reps, and slightly heavier weights start to live in the sweet spot rather than instantly turning into grinders. That is progress you can feel. Recovery is part of the program, not an afterthought. If you are stacking high fatigue sets across too many days, your signs show up fast. Bar speed is slow from the first rep even after a good warm-up. Joints feel irritated, sleep is restless, pumps are flat, and your desire to train drops. When those flags pop, slide more of your work back to the low fatigue zone for a bit and cut a set or 2. A single lighter week done on purpose will save you 3 frustrated weeks later. People always ask about reps and sets, so let's translate the zones into something you can feel without a device. On big barbell lifts, a set that truly has 2 good reps in reserve will feel like this. The last rep slows down enough that you notice it, but the path stays clean and you could absolutely hit 1 more clean rep if needed. If you are doing an 8 rep set to that honest point, many lifters would have had maybe 10 total reps in the tank if they went to the absolute limit, but they stop at 8 because that is where the sweet spot lives. On your freshest practice sets, think of triples, doubles, and even singles where every rep is fast and you leave several clean reps in the bank. On accessories in the sweet spot, you might do sets of 8 to 12 where the last 2 reps clearly slow down but are not grinders. You can also use tempo and intent to teach your body what you want. On your first rep of every set, pause a heartbeat at the bottom position to remove bounce, then drive up with all the speed you can organize. That intent to move fast is what teaches your nervous system to recruit hard, even if the bar does not actually fly. As the set goes on, keep form the priority and let the bar slow naturally. When that slowdown reaches the point where your path wants to wiggle, rack it. That decision point is where progress lives. What about people who love training to the limit because it feels honest? I get it. The grind can be satisfying. Keep it, but use it like hot sauce. Sprinkle it on purpose at the end of a block, or on a small isolation movement where the cost is low, or on a day where you are testing rather than building. The rest of the time, earn the right to grind by living in the zones that let you show up strong again 2 days later. Finally, remember that this is a skill you will sharpen with practice. The first week you may stop a set too early or push one a rep too far. That is okay. Film 1 top set on your main lift each day. Watch how the first rep looks, watch how the last rep looks. If the last rep is only a little slower and clean, you probably nailed the sweet spot. If it looks like you are arguing with gravity, you went too far. If the last rep looks identical to the first and your breathing is still casual, you stayed too fresh for that goal. Adjust next time. The feedback loop is simple and it works. Put it all together and your training stops being a coin flip. You will have days for crisp power where you stop early and teach your system to hit hard from the first rep. You will have days for growth and durable strength where you let the bar slow a bit and rack it before the ugly rep. You will sprinkle the all-out efforts with intention. You will rotate these emphases across weeks so life's chaos does not push you off the sweet spot. That is how you get stronger, grow muscle, and still feel like a human outside the gym. No fee, no nonsense, just gains.